This video is going to be kind of weird because I usually do about 20-minute edited videos containing whatever development I've done on the game recently. This is sort of a bunch of clips, long form edited together from like the last month or so. It's going to cover a lot of the same developmental topics as Devlog 5, so if you want to wait for the concise 20-minute video, just absolutely wait for that. Otherwise, if you want to see me get frustrated, maybe say some dumb shit, or just get mad and stomp around, then this is going to be a very good video for you. If you need some good background content or something to fall asleep to, this is going to be a great choice for that. Yeah, well, hopefully you like it, but I'm putting it out anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Sucks to be you, I guess.
Okay, it's been a minute since I recorded anything. I have a cold. Woo! I am going to show you some progress. Actually, hold on. Let me just show you. So I'm gonna call this guy Hostman. Hostman! And he's gonna host a game. And then we're gonna go here, and we're gonna make a join man. And they're gonna join the game. So now, the number of players and clients is correct. The second thing is that chat messages from the host actually get propagated to the people who join the game. Things are a little more polished. What is more interesting, and I'm just gonna do this, is if I hit start game, we load into a map. And you saw a loading screen there briefly. That loading screen, it's not dynamic yet. We bring in the loading screen and then we hide it when the game is loaded. You can also see that once this is built, the lighting and the textures are a little different. That's the progress update. What I'm trying to do now is I'm going to make a little bit of a settings menu. I'm just going to start building out controller support types. So value selects, toggles, confirm buttons, that sort of stuff. I'm going to build those in the settings menu, and then I'm going to integrate those into a Databox object. And the goal is that we can combine certain data boxes into one larger one, and then we can automatically generate a settings menu from that. So this can be used in the actual settings menu. We can use it in the pause menu. We can use it in the customization menu, the loadout menu, as well as in the actual lobby menu for whoever the host is. We can collect settings from the map settings, the overall game settings. Are there vehicle settings? What swords do we have? Sword settings, ability settings. We can combine all of these sub data boxes into one super data box and then use that super data box to generate a menu which is controller navigatable. That is what I expect will take the rest of this week. Progress has been kind of slow because I had midterms and homework and Halloween happened, so it is now the 14th, so we're a little behind. We have a very basic settings menu. I went through and I created a couple of data box objects. They're duplicates of each other, so we have our defaults, the settings object itself. This is what will get copied and edited. This one specifically is for P1, and we'll make copies of the default for P2 through 4. Basically, I had to decide, and I was doing some drawing on how to encode everything. Databox at least has this list of integers with an index type, which is really cool because what that means is I can encode all of our possible values and which index is the selected one. That is a way of encoding it, and then we have to, encode other types. So what I've basically done is just everything is a string. These look like integers, but they're all strings, and then a boolean is 2 strings, and you just select between 0 and 1. It's just that we can have a selection and all of the options for that selection stored, so that way we can pull all of this data rather than needing to know all the possible options on each actual settings panel to display. We can just pull and auto generate them, because let me see if I can indicate show why this is important. So we look at our old settings menu, we have all of our possible settings, and this is where it got really intense because I would spend so much time just building out everything in here so that way you can interact with it, and then I'd have to copy this and put it into all the other sub-menus in which you can access settings. We'd have to already encode all of these items as a list, but then we'd have to keep this list on every single value select that edits this entry. So the plan right now is that we just store all of the possibilities here, and then we can load them in. Another tiny little incremental progress update. So now we have our data box, which has our two entries, and we have our back, and all this is doing doing is we have what will become this auto-generating settings scroll view, which has this one function that just gets the table from the passed in data. So that way we can pass in a different set of data, and then it gets all of the entry names, copies them to an array because they're not, you can't index them like this otherwise. And then we just iterate through all of those. We print out the names, and then we get our back button. And so this is going to be the sort of format that we're going to follow for building out this menu. So this left-hand navigation is going to be whatever entries we have. So in this case, it'll build out accessibility and controls, because these ones aren't going to exist. It will just actually pull from the Databox object, and then it will append a back button onto the bottom of that list. And so the first micro goal is that we auto-generate this list, and then each one is going to bring up a different submenu on the right-hand side, which is actually just going to be one really long list, and there's sections for each one. So we're going to generate the complete list, every single value in those entries appended together, and then each one of these buttons will take you to a certain spot in that list. That's the goal. Hopefully at the end of the day, then we have this object which we can then just call this function on. And as long as all the UI elements are set properly and all the prefabs are set properly, we'll get a menu of this style with a left-hand navigation and a right-hand actual menu. I'm a little ashamed of how little progress has been made in the last 2 hours, but I did take a shower, so computer science student win. We have our buttons. They get automatically pulled from the entries, and then we append the back button. Now what needs to happen is that these I need to make enough of them that it would turn this into a scrollable area. Public void to settings menu. Menu, and then I'm pretty sure it is menu _ settings. I need to open up the build settings, and you just want to add that settings menu. I'm going to move that to there so that they don't get lost. All of these are going to get removed at some point. Once the character controller is working and the game sort of works, I can nuke all of the old stuff. And ideally, it will load the graph. See? There we go. It did not load the graph, or at least it did, and I don't want to highlight anything just yet. So we have an active graph, we just don't have an active node because there's no start or given node to be set to it. But as soon as we do this, you can see that we're actually navigating. Cool. Let's set start node. Left hand. I need to actually name everything here correctly. Start node. Actually, I can just do it here. It would be left hand buttons 0 dot get component controller node. Oh. Okay, cool. You get to watch me make this a little more robust. Controller node start node equals null, because this one can take a start node. Cool. Now it'll load the graph with the right node. There we go. See? Starts it. Now we just gotta program this back button, which shouldn't be too bad. We just want to go to our settings menu, and we want public void to main menu. Now we're gonna copy this again. Oop. And I think I might want to set this up so that the back button actually calls the back behavior on the graph it's on, but whatever. We'll do that next. Just want to see if this works. Okay, so we go to settings, and we can go back. Boom. So now we should be able to navigate just using this. So we have our controller connected, we go to settings. The back button works. I know why that didn't work. So if we go to the actual settings thing that gets generated, so if we go to the list of buttons, you'll see that what we need are these. Where do we go when we hit up and down and such? Because obviously back still works. So we know that the input is getting to the graph, but we don't generate the actual navigation controller support, which is what we were supposed to do here. We don't need to set the start node. So now if we go to settings, you can see I added a bunch of like temporary things, but once I start scrolling past the halfway point, did I select the wrong one? I might have selected the wrong one. What? I think this will fix it. Please? Yes. Okay. We do a little bit of debugging. It's also crazy to think about, but maybe I want to put the back button on the top. This way, if you accidentally click it, you can go back immediately. Now the back button is first, and maybe it should be indicated that it is something different, but it's a later problem. It when you hit A on one of these buttons, or you go to the right, and then it would load up something on the right hand side. It is the morning. I have a headache, and we made a little bit of progress in the auto-generating settings menu saga. We have now started generating, and I need to fix the spacing here. We've now started generating these entries, and these correspond to each of the entries here. So you'll see that like the first two are going to be the largest because they have the most stuff in them. Whoop. And then the second to last one has stuff in it. Excuse me. I don't know, whatever. This UI is so broken and I don't like it. But we now have some indication of like, hey, here's stuff. So what we need to do now is actually populate this with buttons. We should probably populate the names, fix the spacing, populate it with buttons, and then once those buttons are there, we can actually set up all of these to go to the right spot. I think I don't need to have this padding though, because I already built that in. Kinda. I have such a headache. I'm so congested. It's fucked. I hate that the only times that I really get to hit a flow state on this project are when I'm sick. Whatever. Yeah, there we go. Got rid of the spacing, and it looks a lot better. Now, let's just set the name. So incremental progress, but now all of the entry panels get the title. Bingo, bango, bongo. Another issue of Frank made an incremental amount of progress. Now if we go to settings, you can see that we generate value panel for each one. So now they just need names, and then we need to build in controller navigation and the actual auto scrolling like we had on here, which should be able to just work the same. We'll have to calculate different positions to scroll to for each one of these because we have to also include the size of the headers. We can just add all of these to one big old list and then use that to generate the controller navigation by just being like, okay, this node right here, if you want to go up, look for this one, and if you want to go down, look for this one, which is what we do here. All right. You can probably hear us on. You can probably, okay. So episode whatever and incremental progress, I have a controller. So now if we connect a controller, you can see that we have this set, and if I hit A on accessibility, we then go over. The other thing I can do is hit B, and it's supposed to. Oh no. It's debugging time. All right. I think I fixed it. So now we can navigate this one. If we go here, we can navigate that one. If we hit B, we go back to the right spot, and. Okay. So we've made a significant amount of progress. I think all of the actual controller support stuff for navigation is done. So now if we connect a controller, we can see that, this still works. We can scroll through this, but if we hit A, it now scrolls to section F, and we can go back, we can go up, and if we go to E, it scrolls down. And so we can safely navigate through all of these, and they stay roughly in the center. These two stay here because the actual sorry, that was a moment. The process is that the size of the content, aka the actual stuff in this scrollable view, is supposed to get set. We have this float, which is the total size of the content that we've generated so far. But now, if we go and we restart, we should have smooth scrolling throughout the entire thing. Because we know the updated total amount of entry content size. And so that gets used to set the position that gets scrolled to. This is such a gross function, by the way. This one function does all of the generation. We add our back button, and then for each button, we add the button, and then we need all of the buttons in order to generate the controller support, so we do that later. Then we generate the right-hand side, which is iterating through all of the entries and then getting all the values in each entry, setting up the actual entry panel, and then iterating over all of the values. All that needs to be done now is clearing lists, which realistically should be fine. Because every time you go to settings, it actually loads a scene. I should use the cursor. It loads a scene. And then if I go back, you can see that scene changed to main. So it automatically will have to restart or reset everything. We're not going to like get extra nodes. So the next step is to actually read out the value names, add an actual value select. So when you click on this, it will bring up like a sub something in the right hand side of each one of these panels. And then we can edit the values and then make those sync. I got it to pull the names, and it is not exactly what I was expecting, because I forgot that the names look like this. So I started going through and naming things like putting spaces in them for like these ones, and I think that's gonna end up needing to be the play, having the name of the Databox value be what we want it to be. So like in accessibility, we need to change this to field of view, like do FOV effects. We'll leave that. And I want these true or falses to be on or off. The ideal is that, once these are set, we just have to edit this object and everything will be rendered fine. Now for controls, keyboard toggle crouch, keyboard toggle sprint. I'm going to change these to mouse vertical sensitivity. The keyboard is not what is controlling your camera. So this isn't going to be as maybe robust the previous settings menu was, because I was able to control each aspect and I could just set out like a little table, like a 4x4 for toggle sprint, toggle crouch, and then controller keyboard. I could have just the 2 rows. I think this is going to be a little easier to work with, at least for now. I might be able to add that column generation feature later. See, now we got field of view, FOV effects, and then they all have their names. And I'm not changing these. I actually need to get rid of these. They're just here so that we can test all the scrolling stuff. And now that I know that all the scrolling stuff works, I don't need it. So actually, I think it's time to go through and delete all that. This is why Databox is great. You can just, other than this UI, sometimes the text stuff doesn't like to work properly. Other than that, works great. God, we're so back. So now if we use a controller, hold on, I gotta select it. You can see we have now populated our settings menu with stuff. And unfortunately, if you hit A, it doesn't do anything. They work with the mouse and the buttons are responsive. We're kind of winning. 2 things that we have to do is say if we change this to 100 and we go back, we need to actually make that change persistent. So we need to save it in the data box, and we need to get the controller support for these actual nodes to work so that you can hit A, it will highlight just this portion, and then you'll be able to go left and right with the stick to change the value. All right, incremental progress report. So I made it so that everything is in its default state right now, but we can say just push these values around, and if we go out and we come back, they're here. And they persist, so we can look in this Databox object and we can see in accessibility, it's like, hey, we've changed the FOV selected value. So now the only step that I have to do to make it work with the controller, and then this whole 3-day saga of the self-generating settings menu is done. Okay, I think this is the final increment. I'm gonna move the mouse so we can navigate. This stuff is all auto-generated, and now if we hit A, you can see that we get a little highlight. We can select the value. If we go up, it goes to the next one and stops selecting a value. Same thing for down. And now if we try and go left, it doesn't do anything, but if we hit B to stop selecting the value, we can go and navigate. Yeah, and if you just keep hitting A, it just toggles whether you're selecting or not. So yeah. Yeah. I think my only thing is I don't really like the ordering of on and off. I feel like off should be the 0 index and on should be the 1. That just feels off to me, so I might go through and swap all of that, but yeah, I'm gonna do that. But other than that, this is done. We can just copy this into whatever menu we need to put it into now, so we're set. Okay, I feel like a little defeated. Not really. So I was able to get the actual this is a P1, P2. So P2 can open this modal menu, and when we go to settings, you see that it generates, and we can even like edit these settings and they persist. It's just that for some reason, the buttons on the left hand only seem to want to work like the first time we go there. So I just connected a second controller. So now if we go to the modal menu, see, everything looks fine here. If we go back, suddenly it does that. We can go back again, and then now it's just straight not working. And what I'm thinking is happening is that it's not that the text is disappearing, it's just that you saw that the node got stretched horizontally, and so something is happening that is setting the width that it is supposed to be larger. And it's just done that multiple times now. So something is making these buttons larger and larger and larger. The other thing I want to test is if this happens with just like the normal settings menu. So like if I just go normal settings menu, back, normal settings menu, back, it seems to be fine here. Now I already implemented a fix, so it's possible that, like, say it works fine, it works fine, it works fine, it works fine. Okay, so it was taking the width and making that the size delta, and I guess that size delta and width are not the same thing. The only thing that I need to do now, is make it so that when you're in this menu, since you can already navigate everything fine, the only thing that doesn't work is hitting B to go back. So there we go. Yeah, so now I can just hit B and we're good. I can even, like, to prove it, go here, just, so yeah, have I never gone back from that? Wait, that's funny. Okay, hold on. I think I changed the back button. I never actually changed that. Regardless, we make this more robust every day. The next sort of suite of stuff is, since now we know how to auto-generate something from a Databox object, is we're going to edit these host controls for the lobby and make this endgame button. I already flipped them around, but we're going to make this endgame button an edit game settings button, which is going to bring you to another panel. And that panel is going to have all of the game settings, everything from the map and the mode and the number of players to the number of teams. And then we can concatenate different Databox objects into one big one for, like, vehicle settings and map specific settings and sword settings and ability settings and whatever. That's the plan. My hair is so greasy. Christ. I just created this game settings object, which just has an entry for general settings. So we have a map with a few options, a mode with a few options, a number of players, a number of teams. Teams is really just free for all or 2 teams. That was a design decision I made because having to accommodate 3 or 4 teams is just going to be, I think, a little too complicated considering we're already counting in different game modes. So certain maps are only going to support certain modes. I mean, ideally, I make every map support every mode, but, like, uphill battle is sort of a specific, so. Oh well. Now we're going to just take this, and it's going to populate that. So we have this game settings object in the code, and we already have this function which just copies the player settings object, copies everything from that. And realistically, what I should do, actually, is just pass in this, because the only thing that's different between this function and this function is the name of the object, or the reference to the object. So I'll do that in a second. We're just going to store the game settings object, and every time that we create a lobby, we're going to copy the game settings object so it acts as like a default settings. And this can only be edited by me or any other developer. The temporary one can be edited by whoever is the host of the game. And then I'll have to come up with some way of taking that temporary object that you really like and really like game mode settings wise and serializing that into like a JSON file, which I think this can support, and I don't think it'll be too hard, but that way you could share them with other people. That's down the line. Basically, I'm just keeping that in the back of my head, so I'm not going to make a system that doesn't allow that. Private void copy Databox, and we'll just take in a Databox object. Oh, because it's outside of the class, that's why. Live coding. Okay, so we're going to copy a Databox, and we're actually going to spit this back out. So we're just going to take this. We're going to paste that. And now this Databox object and a string for... Wow, I spelled that wrong. A string for the table name. This way, we don't have to have it be settings every single time. And we can just make this just return Copy Databox. Oh, instance. Copy Databox, and then we will just take that with table settings. Look at that. Bingo, bango, bongo. Look at how clean this code is. And then we can do the same thing here with that. Bam. Probably we want to get the object on start. New section, so header, game settings, serialized field, private, data box, object, but it gets added automatically. We'll call this game settings object. We can just create a couple of functions. So we want a public void to game settings panel, and we're gonna also create one called from. We're gonna want to store a game object reference for the game settings panel, and the way that it should work is that the actual scroll view will load the controller navigation stuff on its own, so we don't have to worry about that. Serialized field, the only other thing we need to do though is hold one of those settings scroll view and call this the game settings scroll view. In this we just want to set the panel active, panel.set active true, and we're going to copy this and just make this unactive just so it's false, so that will hide it. And then we want to generate the scroll view dot build settings from Databox, and we're just going to pass this the game settings object, and then we want a back behavior, so from game settings panel. So what this will do is it will call this generate function that we have that's stupid long, and it will just build the panel based off of our Databox object. Yeah, okay, so then that all should be set. Need to get that object on start. Grab a game settings object. Game settings object equals settings manager dot, what did we call it? Game settings data box. I'm gonna call it new, because just to follow the same naming scheme, and that will just give us our data box to populate. And so that should for the most part be working. We got to set our references in the actual editor, and I have a controller plugged in, so I'm going to navigate with that just to confirm that everything is working, and we're going to see how broken it gets. So if we do multiplayer local, because that's the only one that's set up, Whackman, and then we hit A. So besides the fact that the controller navigation doesn't work, I also realized I never actually set it. You get to see a bunch of stuff. It's been 9 minutes. This is gonna be fun to edit. Hi, Frank. Whack, yeah. Okay, so let's see. Control-Shift-P. If we are not, and that could be for a few reasons. The first is that the actual objects that we want to modify don't have references. And we also see that we never got that, but that is probably because we are erroring out before we get there. Ooh, even better, we get an error automatically, which just is a cool reminder that we never set that. We also changed the name of our default settings object. We gotta reset it there. Cool, now it should work. And we start, we can now navigate through everything, and that works fine. If we go to the game settings menu, you can see that we just straight have this. Boom. It used to take me so long to make these settings menus, and now I don't even have to worry about it. I just put a prefab in and tell it to generate it from an object. This is so much better. And that should persist, so if we go back, it's worth noting that the controller support doesn't work until we do that. But you see, it persists. Okay, it worked there. Maybe I just already hit down. Yeah, it's working on subsequent, so sure. And then we can start the game, and the next goal is to make that little blip loading screen pull from the game settings object. So yeah, so now that we have a little map settings thing, I haven't integrated that, but I did finally finish the loading screen. So if I pause it, we can just skip ahead frame by frame. You can see that the button is gonna get clicked. Oh wait, I did it too fast. So you can see that now it takes 1 frame to load the map. So I'm sorry that I didn't get it fast enough for you to see that it actually says loading map or whatever. We set the name accurately, And then there's no mode being passed in, so it's just nothing. But we get a status and a %. So now we can, boop, 100. We're not waiting for anyone else, which in fact we were waiting for ourselves. We just had to tell the game manager that we were ready, and then it would tell everyone it's okay to start the game, and now we're in the game. That's how that works. Now I get to just implement taking those 2 text values and pushing them into the loading screen. It shouldn't be too hard. Tale of a fuck up, I guess. The original implementation was just that this would pull a temporary, it would pull a game settings object, make a copy, and I realized that that's not synced over the network, and it's gonna need to be. Rather than syncing just a couple of fields, I figured we should probably just sync the whole object. So I changed this so that when you go to the settings panel, we get a copy of the one of the settings object on the game director. We generate the settings menu from that, and then when you leave the settings panel, we would try and copy the temporary one into the networked one. Only issue being that the actual game settings object, the Databox object, can't be synced over the network. So I'm trying to make a custom sync type. Last time the hole that I fell into was trying to get this game state thing to be synced, and I think now this sync Databox thing is going to be the hole that I fall into this time, but we'll see. The classic, we're gonna have to watch a Winterbolt games video. It's only 30 minutes long. It's only 30 minutes long. Okay, this is kind of insane, but if we look at this, we see that a Databox object is a database, or a data box, whatever they want to actually call it, which is a dictionary of a string and then a database. And we go to this definition of a database, which is right here, and it's an dictionary of a string and a database entry, which, going down the chain, database entry is a dictionary of a string and then a dictionary of types and then this. So, because everything in my data box, I have to wait for it to load. Yeah. Whatever. I know I put this here, yada yada. Because everything in the database is a string, list of strings with an index. I made a little struct that's a list of strings with an index. And you know what we're gonna do? Sync dictionary. That's a class. That's the thing in the networking thing. So we're gonna make a sync dictionary of a dictionary of a dictionary of these things. So that this way we can encode this first string is the table name, the second thing is the entry name, and this is the value name, and then this has our index and our values. This is just so that I can avoid trying to take this object, take the whole thing, turn it into JSON, send that over the network, read it in, convert it out of JSON. I think this might be quicker. Okay, so I'm moving all of the stuff that has to do with game settings out of the actual network game director. So it's going to exist as a submodule of the network game director. This way we don't have to clog up this file with everything. Public override void on start network. And then we want to serialize, in quotes, a default game settings object. And what we're going to want to do is we want to have a public void, which we're going to take in a Databox object. I don't really know what I want to call this, but let's just say convert Databox to dictionary. I think that's what we'll want to do. And then this is going to be horrible, but we gotta return this entire type. New dict equals new. Boom. We'll create the dictionary, create the database dictionary. We're gonna want to copy over everything from the data box, and then just to indicate that we're gonna do stuff here, we're gonna put that, and then we're gonna return the new dictionary. Is that this is a dictionary? So we just want to make this a dictionary, I guess. Okay, so it's not that. This is not a public struct. Is that really what it is? Yeah. We're still going to want to make a dictionary, and I should probably do some testing with an actual sync dictionary first. But I think we might be able to say like game settings equals convert Databox to dictionary. Yeah. And then we can just pull from the settings manager, get game settings Databox. So we can do that, and then read-only field cannot be assigned to void clear. I don't know how exactly I want to do this. Clear game settings probably is the way that we want to do it. And so what we'll do is that we just go through every single thing and we just delete it. Dang, this is gonna be maybe expensive. And it sort of makes sense that the Databox object here sort of structures it into classes. So you go through this dictionary and then you find the thing, and you go through this dictionary and you find the thing, and then you go through this dictionary and you find the thing, and then you get this dictionary back, which is fucking insane, but it's okay. So here we have this copy function that we wrote earlier. I'm just going to copy this for now. We're not going to need a copy object, and we don't have a table name, but we can take one in. Oh, string. I've programmed before, I swear. So we have this. We don't need a copy object. Okay. And now instead of this, we don't really want to copy the thing. We are actually going to do an update. Oh, so we have our table name, we have our entry, and we have our item.key equals new string list with index. So we have our selected index, which is what we want to. So we have our selected index, and then we want to get our list out, which is called value. From the value is the list of strings, and this is the int. And we want to return the new dictionary. Okay, so that is sort of what that's supposed to look like. All right, so this one debug log message, that is the number of items in our game settings dictionary, which is cool because what we can do here is this is going to be so gross. It's a proof of concept for how we can turn we can take this function and convert it into something that just updates this game settings dictionary. We have to create this furthest in level dictionary and then populate it with stuff, and then we create the next level dictionary, and then we take that thing that the inner level dictionary, and we push it in, and then we do that again. We create another outer layer, and we take that inner layer and we push it in. So we have our table dictionary, which is, I'm going to actually just call it that. Table dictionary. Because this outer level string is the table. We're only going to add one thing to this. Then we get the entries from that table. We create an entry dictionary. So for each one of these, we have the name of the entry. And this is the entry. We go through and we get all the values for each entry. And then we create a value dictionary, which we then populate. And then we add that entry dictionary, which is populated with the entry name and this dictionary of values. And then so once we've collected all of the entries, that is what is a table. And so we will add that entire entry dictionary with the table name to the table dictionary and then return it. But basically what we'll do is I'm going to make a function that we can call with this that takes in one of these dictionaries, iterates over the whole thing, very similar to what we do here, and then make sure that that value is in game settings. And then we get to know if all of this code works or if it's all just really fucking broken because I wrote it. So fun. Let's do it. Okay, this is quite possibly one of the grossest pieces of code I've ever written, but also it kind of works. So if we have nothing in the table level of the game settings, we just copy it over from the other one. We copy all of the tables over. There should only be one, so that's why I said it. And then we return. Otherwise, we go through each table key in the new dictionary, and then we check if the game settings contains that table key, and then we do the same thing for the sub-dictionary. So for each entry key in this table's keys, we see if the game settings contains that key. What we do need to do now is an else on each step. So on the value step, we can say else just game settings table key entry key dot add, and then we want to add our value key. So now we want to do this on the entry level. So if the game settings does not contain the entry, we want to add game settings table key add. Now we add to the table dictionary this entry with the same name, and then finally here we can just do a normal add with the table key and just do that table. Oh man. So this is gross, but it should work. It should work, I think, from that. So we'll call this function and then stuff this function into this argument and then call this. So hopefully the first time it gets called, we just add that. Hopefully. Okay, let's save it. Okay, well we have that. So obviously this is still working. We're gonna need to reset that. I just want to see the number of tables, so the first layer entries into this database. Yeah, so we have 2. Let's print out the keys. So we should see settings. Let's also print the settings count because that should exist now. We should also see table name as a string. My only concern, and it wasn't erroring before, so I'm just hoping that this fix update thing does not get called before it's actually all the way set. So local host. So now we have one thing here. We have one settings entry, which should make sense. So we have our general table, which, if you recall, is we have settings general. So we have this and we have table name. So we're good, I think. The first table that gets added is the spoof one. I'm gonna remove all of this. If we're the server, we want to quote unquote serialize a default game settings object into the sync dict. Now we need to do a couple of things. I'm gonna get my iPad really quick. If it's ever gonna load. This is sort of the flowchart. Basically, when we start, we're gonna do exactly what we do here, which is to populate this dictionary with a Databox object. And then once we have that, we need to be able to get values out of it. That is what we're gonna do here. String with index, and we're just gonna say get game settings value. I'm actually just gonna say this is a string. We want a table name, string entry name, I can't type, and we want a string value name. What this is going to do is the first thing that we have to do is check each step and make sure that the actual thing that we're trying to look for exists, and then if it does exist, we're going to return the string. If the table name, oh, how do we do it here? If game settings, yeah, boop, that contains table name, then we're gonna go down again, game settings, table name, entry name, and we're gonna do that again one last time. We're gonna just entry name contains value name, then string, I can't type, so string list with index, we're just gonna say value equals null. Is that not allowed? Because it's a struct. Okay, well then I guess this is gonna look weird. So let's comment check if the game settings contains the value we're looking for. And so if we do, now we're going to grab the string list with index. So string list with index, we're just gonna say value equals, and we want to actually just get this value name, and then we can just return the selected value. So we can say return. This is also a very gross piece of code, but we know that we have our values, and we can just grab our index from doing the same thing. Value.values, and we want value.index. That is the selected value because it's just whatever chosen index we have of this list. Otherwise, return empty string. Boom. That should be our get function. Let's see if this washes out and breaks my webcam again. Again, this is sort of the flowchart of how things are going to work. So we're going to have our little start, and then we populate the dictionary from a database. And then we're going to build once we have a built dictionary, we can get values from it using this get game settings values. And then there's that loop on what is your right to convert, where we can pull this dictionary, convert it to a data box, edit the data box, and then convert it back to a dictionary and update the game settings. And that is what we need to do now. What we were doing was creating a temporary game object and then building the settings menu from that temporary object. Once we closed the game settings menu, we were taking that temporary object and we were shoving it back into the game director. That's that loop. We're going to create a Databox object that we're going to build this list off of, and we're going to be editing this Databox object. And once we go back, that's officially when the edit is committed, and then it will convert that Databox object back into a dictionary and upload it to the network. Whew, this is gonna be a lot of code. We need to do the reverse of this, where we need to build a Databox object. So it's gonna look more like this, because we can actually just, which by the way, all of these, horrible time complexity. I don't know if you're a programmer or anything, but just horrible time complexity, because all of this is like end of the third, because it's for loop and a for loop and a for loop. So we can have an arbitrarily large number of things in each one of these, which will slow it down exponentially. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way to speed this up. Woo. Okay, I'm gonna write the reverse of this, where we get a Databox object out. Okay, I think we're at a point where some stuff will work. I did a quick test to make sure that our get values methods were working. So if I load up a lobby, which is a random name, you can see that now we get our test map, and Castle Wars is the mode, map, and mode. I just realized that. It's my bad. I'll restart this. Okay, so we start a game, and now you can see map, test map, mode, Castle Wars. I think I got it so that this generates now. So we pull from that dictionary. We can actually see what we do is we get our temp game settings object from the game settings manager, and then we build a scroll view. So now the only thing that we have to do is actually commit over the network all of the saves, and then I want to test it. The sinkhole might be done, maybe. Also, editor Frank, can we call this video, or this part in the video, the sinkhole, where sync is in like a sync data type, because this is where I ended up having to spend a lot of time today conceptualizing and figuring this all out. So I want to call it the sinkhole. I'm not doing that. Okay, so it's working. It's sort of working, at least if the host is in Unity. This is not a development build. I might want to make it one. We make this the host man, and we host. It now has the stuff. Here, I need to restart some stuff. Yeah, see how it doesn't have that? And if we go here, it doesn't actually have the setting. I'm worried something is happening that isn't saving the actual Databox object. So the first thing I'm going to check is if config save path, it should save. It should save in a similar vein that, like, we should be able to go to the settings menu, and we have the settings object. So we know that it at least exists. It's just that if we host a game, we don't have the settings. And we also don't have a way to get back, which is fine. It's broken more than that. Flashbang. Okay, so here's what's happening. So basically, we're trying to copy a Databox, and something is an object reference is not set to an instance of an object. Yeah, you can see the error in here. Oh, please. Wow. Okay. Frank Ban, cut that out. It happens again. We know it's actually either one of two things. Either this instance, which should be getting set, is not getting set, or this game settings object is not set, it is set. What I'm wondering is maybe there's something with how this one is set up. Maybe it's because the database never gets saved. God, we shouldn't even have to do that. We should just get the object. Maybe we have to load it. Maybe we have to load it. This is how we debug. This is how we debug. Okay. Now we're going to rebuild it again. So maybe what was happening was we were never actually loading the database, since it's in a streaming asset path. It has the actual physical location on the disk that it needs to be saved to, and then we need to load it from that into working memory. Also, this is a complete side note. Everyone who has ever recommended the show Shameless to me, thank you. It's a good show. I'm not that far into it, but I was going to work on this last night, and I started watching it, thinking it would be something I could just put on the side, and if I turn that show on, I don't do anything else, so it's a good sign. Oh, Oh, no, 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 no. Did we just ping everything? It'd be really funny if that just pinged. I accidentally started streaming. No, it would be a really bad time to start streaming. Regardless, I think this is the moment of truth. If we host a game as host man, now that we've yes, okay, we win some accidentally. Okay, we should be able to set the map and the mode and go back, and we have that. And now, if we go here, join man, join, and creation. Yes. Okay. A quick little rant. So sometimes the worst part about game development is that even though you plan on a certain scope, you never know the true extent to the scope. At about like 2 p.m. today, I realized that I didn't know how to sync one of these data boxes over the network, and that put me into an actual hole mentally, because I was like, I already have a bunch of other things I need to finish today with this. Don't know if I have the time to figure out how to sync them. We've done that now, so we're good. We have our lobby, we have these. Now we can get back to what I was doing at 2 p.m., which is taking these map and mode values and then pushing them to the loading screen for when we start the game. All right. I did a little bit of updating. So the first thing is you can see that it now pulls some stuff from that one thing, Steam. Hi, Steam. So we now do that, and when we go to online, we have the ability to see a little bit of a friends list. None of these are buttons. The goal is I need to make this actually kind of match. Rather than having it match the Steam's friends list, I want it to match the rest of the UI here. Now it's solid. It's not blinking anymore, so maybe that means it's working. Oh, I forgot I need that. Oh, fine. Sometimes I really hate how Xbox controllers sync. Okay. We have a second one. That's all I wanted to show you, was that the name would have a little 2 next to it. Now, we just need some way of, like connecting to, maybe a lobby, I don't really, no. Maybe if like there was like a lobby browser or something that I've like made before that I could just like, steal. This is the old main menu. And so the old one had a little lobby browser, and then you could join the lobby, you could refresh it. It also had this little way of creating one. So I'm just gonna steal probably this little panel and this and go from there. Okay, so if we ignore the fact that I watched 3 hours of Shameless, 3 episodes, we have a lobby browser, or at least kinda. A few things we gotta do now is actually hook up the controller navigation for all this and the highlighting for all of this. Make it so the refresh button actually works. Just copied the solution from the last one to the current one. Okay, so I've spent most of this morning trying to get Steam connectivity to work. So now I guess I should probably update you. There is a few things that have changed. The first is that now if you go to online, we have our full lobby browser. This isn't new, but we also have a little menu that allows you to just like host stuff. I need to make it so this highlights, but just notice that you can set the visibility of the lobby, and then you can either go back or we can confirm and create one. And what's kind of what I would call fucky is you can see that it tries to start a local client. What's interesting is the server side gets started, or is starting and then gets started. The client is starting but never fully gets started, so it never completes its setup. And so that's why I think that we only get our game director and we don't get our client objects that we're used to seeing. If we create this, we get our client object with our little info and stuff, which is how this little thing works, and we get our chat message, all of that. That is not happening. Okay. My quality is gonna be shit. There's you. Hi. We are currently hosting a game on here, and I can just use this as a feed, but boop. So you can see here, we set up the lobby data to temp. Now, if we go over here, temp. So now we can find it. And I'm not 100% sure what happens if we try and join it. Because right now it doesn't seem like anything is happening. That took a second. Okay. Could not parse that to an IP address. Okay. God, this is so jank. We can find it. We don't have any clients get created. And the reason that is probably happening is that we are having an issue parsing this to an IP address. Okay, thank God for Discord, dude. So I just found, I just looked up host address on the fishnet Discord, and the issue I was having where it could not parse something that starts with a 7 to an IP address. It's like yada yada yada. Do you have the peer-to-peer option checked? You need this, otherwise it's trying to get an IP. That's cool. Love that we got that. I pulled up the old menu utilities, and yep, that's checked. The new one, it's not checked. So now if we check it, online host create, something still isn't happening. Okay, moment of truth. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. We should be able to find temp and join it. Connecting, finding route, local client is started. So now we hit the same issue in two places. Okay. Why this was disabled? I don't know. This was disabled. Huh. It works. What will happen now is we have our temp thingy. It sort of knows that it's the one we're most likely to join because it's a friend of the account, so it'll put it first. We can join it, which actually works. We find that out, we connect, and we can see that it is the other person's lobby. Really quick stuff that does work is that we can send chat messages between the accounts. So that's one thing. That's kind of cool. Everything seems to be working here. I'm going to bring the laptop over. So besides the fact that this thing is really hot, full cam. So how well is this going to go through? You see how it has decided that it doesn't know whose lobby it is? That is because that computer, the one that you are actually recording from, is constantly trying to set its name as the name of the host. So what we need to do now is we need to change how the host name is decided, I guess. The other thing is I'm gonna go really quick. Let's see if you can. Exposure's horrible, but I can edit the settings here. So it should say now uphill battle for game mode and space station for map. And when I go back, even though it's updated, so even though the map and the mode get updated on this end, if we were to go here, you see that we still have test map and castle wars. So the biggest two things that we have to fix now, what I'm calling the Z fighting here of the two names, and we need to fix the fact that the game settings do not get propagated to the other. But this is significant progress. We can actually like fix these things rather than be like, oh well, no one's connecting. The other thing that is also interesting is notice how there is a Nerd Herd network joined but no wiki joined. So we're gonna need to want to maybe figure out why that's happening. So now if we were to load up our own instance, we wanted to check and see. So this is going to be the host. So hostman joined, pulling that aside, multiplayer local, join. And there's stuff that's not working. So like obviously the chat is not working for some reason. And the host name is never getting properly set. That's actually extremely interesting, especially because this is as if nothing starts, and that is because it appears that nothing does. Look at that, nothing. This is all from the first one. I want to see tugboat is working. Wow, no, tugboat's just dead. That's actually really interesting. Host, yeah, so it's all fine from the owner's perspective, but you effectively just go to the lobby screen otherwise. Okay, let me catalog this stuff, and we're gonna have to just live test this because the only thing that I've changed recently is that this is activated. So now if we go here, it's not going to be able to work on that, but we should at least be able to host, and then of course the host works, because I think tugboat might only work if this is disabled. local. This is gonna be the host. Everything is working. We have our chat. We have our stuff. Everything is working, at least host-wise. Join, man. Okay, so it is not that is enabled. Okay, so let's re-enable fishy. God, I've been meaning to like push for a long time. You can see by how much yellow and how many different areas, but it's still broken, and I want things to work. Okay, multiplayer local. This is join, man. Join. Okay, so we at least run the function. So what's happening is, I guess, that these... I hope you see what I see. Okay. All right. I wish I was a little less sloppy of a programmer. That would make my life so much easier. No way. When you actually join the game, it joins the game. Okay, so that's cool. And now, if we go to online, refresh, fucking no one is here. But we can join this. So now we're hosting one on the other computer. Now if we go online, we have this temp. And that works. So now we have Tugboat working, which is good because that means that all of the stuff works normally. Now we just need to worry about this weird Z-fighting thing and other shit. I took a stab at it, and let's just say the thing that was setting the host name was not behind a barrier that checked if the client was the owner. So what was happening is, so you'd spawn an instance of the client for each, or instance of each client on each client. And you can see that when we'll load in. Over here, I have a client ready to go. So let's hostman it. So we get one client. This is our hostman. It's the local guy. Connection 0 is server and is also host. Here we're going to join on the join man. You see, now we don't have this Z fighting. And we have this join man guy, which is join man. Doesn't have a connection ID, which is interesting. If we're not the owner of this object, we don't set it. We just don't set it. Doesn't need it. But basically what was happening is that this piece of code was running under the condition that we had a client info object, which would be true when we spawn the client. And it would run every time. So it would run on both of these clients, and it would attempt to set its username as the host name locally. It wouldn't work on the clients. In order to actually set the host name, it requires ownership of the object. Object being this, meaning you'd have to be the host of the game. So it wouldn't work on any of the other objects. It would for the host, which is why we're getting that Z fighting on only the host. Okay, so that actually fixes our little Z fighting issue. So that's one of 3 things down. The other thing I changed is that now all of the metadata for the game is stored in this metadata dictionary. All this is that we have a dictionary. Anyone can call this try and set metadata. Only the owner will actually call the server RPC. The server RPC gets called, which calls the actual set metadata, which gets run on the server, and it just would update the value. Anyone can get something from the metadata, but only the server can actually set values. We have 2 other issues that we have to fix, and then we're going to implement more of this metadata stuff. So the other 2 issues are that we have a join man that can join guy man, and who can post in chat, but you can kind of see that we never actually see a message indicating that the host man joined. So we want to find out why that is not running. If we want to enter the game settings, we can reset them to the default, and they update. What did it take? It took reducing updating individual entries to just clearing and adding it again. We like simplicity, but this is going to be a massive push over the network every single time. So the good thing is that it only calls that update when these settings are changed. Other thing is you probably can tell that the join messages aren't working again for subsequent clients, and the reason that is just that I went through and I removed. Okay, this is the moment of truth. I have a game going in the client. We're gonna do the join man 1, join man. Cool. So I think those are our 3 issues. Now we have the honorary one, which is if we leave and we come back. Let's call this guy join man 2. Now we have this. That was the honorary 4th issue. Once that's done, I can finally git push and we can get rid of all this yellow, hey, we modified stuff crap. Okay, so I think what's happening here, so we have a dictionary. This is a dictionary, this clients list. Now this is the clients list it's a dictionary on the server manager. And you can see it's a dictionary of keys that are ints and our network connections. So the count is the number of clients that we have connected. So in this case, it would be 2. But because what happens is the second client, aka index 1, would disconnect and then a new one would join. So that's now client number 2 as far as dictionary key, but their index would be 1. There's no key for that. So what we got to do now is just restructure this and then it should work fine. I just restructured it a bit, so we go through each entry in the list of clients and then we take that entry and we spit its key, or we use its key to get the objects out of it. We really could just have used entry.value.objects. So we get every object out of this network connection because this network connection has a collection of objects, and then we find a client in that hman host. So now we can join. So it's join man. We can leave. Now oh wow, I just speed ran through the wrong thing. Join 2, join. And now you can see that we don't have any errors because we're not trying to access iteratively what can't be accessed iteratively, or at least not through numerical iteration. It has to be through entry iteration. But now I can push everything. Let's go. So the next goal, there's 2 goals, is we want to propagate those values, the game setting stuff, so the map, the mode, and the number of players, as well as the lobby name, to Steam, so that way we actually see what we want and we'll get a value for players. So that's one thing. Also, when we host, this is actually something that we can edit. And you see that doesn't actually get set because all this is doing is it's grabbing the host name and then putting 's as lobby. It would probably be a good idea to actually pull in and push to that metadata dictionary the actual lobby name that we decided on. So this network sync object, its goal is to actually keep what is, like, we have all of our stuff in the fishnet. How do I even describe this? Our game has this network game director and some clients and stuff, but how do we keep that in sync with the Steam side? That is the goal of this. Right now, all it does is it integrates with actually creating a lobby and setting that up so you can join it and shit. And then when it joins, we update the UI. We need to update these lobby fields, which actually should be not that bad, but that's the next goal. So let's actually update some shit and then we'll go from there. So main reason why I don't like testing Steam stuff on Tuesdays, Steam API just went down. I didn't intend to record anything, but I just wanted to point out we got tits as a lobby name. I don't know what that means. English only is kind of cringe. Tesla server, wow. Walmart's funny. Do we get anything else? I mean, there's Suka. Is now we have this display, which is going to be populated with the players on each team, and if we change this to free-for-all, we go to just a players list. Hi guys, so the next few clips all they sound like this, so we can actually really easily update this, and I don't think that sounds good or sexy or anything, so I'm just gonna skip these. And sorry if there's continuity issues. Okay. It has been a bit, and by a bit I mean a day. Here's the plan though. This is all we have left for Sprint 2, and then I'm going to write the video. That's it. I need to actually make some of these videos. They would be fun. I uploaded this one. It wasn't that great. I took it down. It was a good proof of concept that I could use this thing and make the actual quality of the videos better. But it was okay. So here's the plan for tonight. It is 7:30. Like, look at this. It's 7:30. I was expecting to be doing homework until much, much later tonight. And it got done. So the goal is, we're going to finish off this lobby UI. And the high-level goals for this is that we have lists of players, which we're working on. And we are able to change the teams of those players, whether that is through clicking on a button, or using a controller to navigate to that button, or by using the D-pad to select a team. Then we want to be able to pull up players into like a modal menu in front of everything. And we also want to make sure everyone has some sort of image and that everything is identified properly. The thing that we got to do next is actually make it so that we can change some of these teams. So I added these little set team functions to the lobby menu script. All they do is they get the local client from the game manager, and then they, for a local player on that client, we set the team. I am gonna buy myself a fucking Togo sandwich because I am hungry and I need food. I actually showered for you motherfuckers, so be happy. Oh, and it's worth noting that my roommates are having people over, like in a party capacity. So the goal of getting this done tonight is going to be it's gonna be kind of interesting. Okay. As always, room is a mess. It just will be. Here's some cool some updates. Let me actually connect to controllers. So 1, 2. We're not actually gonna use them just yet, but if we were to make a local lobby, you can see that we now have local users. This indicates the host of the game, and we have a default icon. If we were to create an online game, that icon and name now corresponds to... Now, I have my other computer, so you can see that this doesn't just work by pulling out the same image from the main menu. So if we join Nerd Network, not the owner, joined on other computer, and has their own icon. Now the goal is to build out these join team buttons and then the controller navigation for everything. Here is to hoping that this is the third to last progress report for this devlog. So now if we connect a controller, you see that if we host a game, we can now go and navigate between everything. There's no modal menu yet, and also if I was to say add a second player and then create the game, there's no way of joining teams yet with the D-pad, even though the UI is there. Yeah, that's the progress report, is that the UI is working and I can control it with both controllers at the same time, which makes it really have a good time. This is hopefully the second to last little update. So now you see 2 local player mode. And if I was to, I have to actually have the game selected. I can move each individual local player around. So there we go. All right. So this should be the last, which is weird to say, last little progress report. So I made it. So if you you can select any of these player cards, and I'll populate this little bar with stuff later. You can even do things where, like, which one's this one? This one's 2. So we're gonna select this guy, and we can move the other player, and then we can go back, and it still selects the right one. In a similar vein, if we were to select someone and then look at their whatever and then go back, we now find them. That works. I think the only thing I should probably do is make it so that when you go back from this modal menu, when we try and find the card, if we don't load anything here, then we would need to load the top menu graph, or else we're gonna not load anything. Yeah, that's insane to think about. That's 2 sprints in the bucket. We're only about a month behind schedule. Okay, so that's sort of where this video leaves off. All I did after that was talk about the schedule and how far I was behind and kind of what still needed to happen. Seriously, if you're still here, thanks for watching. You did not need to watch an hour and 15 minutes of my rambling, but I do really appreciate it. Devlog 5 is going to be out in 2 weeks, so get ready for that. It's going to be a lot of the same stuff, but you'll get to hear the theory, the planning, all of that other stuff, where this is like the grunt work. So definitely worth watching both. I'll probably shout out a couple of points in this video in that one. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like it, comment. Thanks for the hour of watch time. Seriously, that's huge. But yeah, see ya.